All right, so welcome back to the Whitehouse Farm. Today it's kind of dismal out, so we're gonna go ahead and start picking a lot of these dandelions. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make some dandelion wine for Mommy and I, and we're gonna make some dandelion jelly for the kids, and some other stuff I'll show you. So let's go ahead and get started here.
Wow, I found a four-leaf clover.
Look at that. Luck of the Irish. Oh, and a chungus.
Chungus 20.
Like this. No, the head. So just this part.
Yep.
Jamie, you put a bunch of stuff.
Look at all these.
No, I can do that. Ew, what is that? Is that a tick?
No, they're gonna be some bugs on some stuff. Hi, chungus.
Small thing.
Yeah, guys, use two fingers.
Ah.
That's exactly what I do. I go like this.
Jesse.
All right.
There's lots of stems, Dad.
Yeah.
No, you just don't.
The babies are fighting.
Okay, you so far. Let's get some more. I'm taking over.
Like, they stain your clothes. People say they stain your clothes. Yeah, it's true!
Oh, whoa, no, that's a bad idea. Wipe it off.
Yeah. Yep. Don't pick the stems, Jamie.
I'm not. I'm not.
She just tried to eat the entire bucket. You tried to get right in there.
No, I got sour.
No, don't let her eat them.
She didn't even grasp.
Good job, Major. You're doing good.
I picked Audie. I want to pick Audie.
Yeah.
He's trying to pull down your pants. Hey, buddy. Chunky baby.
Like Tommy. Major, yeah.
Chunky. Chunky. Mom, piggy.
Hey, Peppa.
Hi, Peppa.
Piggy. You're nursing.
He's getting a drink. Yeah. There, you got your snack. Peppa, she's running around out there.
She's running around. I see out of nowhere from
Hey, Olaf.
behind the playground. playground. Me and Chungus are sitting in the Jeep. Once these are reflective. Nice job, Chungus. You gotta play that back in slow-mo.
Hey, you guys making the dandelion jelly? Yeah, we are, Olaf.
Oh.
We're also gonna be making the wine too. Ooh, I love the wine. Yeah, I bet you do, Olaf. You're picking them? Let me see what you got. Oh wow, you're doing good, Major.
Can I see, Rach? Yeah, that's actually a lot, actually. That's pretty good. Then you can actually...
I was picking them, but with my mouth, and they go right back here in my belly.
That's your own bucket, Mage.
All right, so as you can see, we got a whole bunch of dandelion heads now. Next step is head inside, and we'll go ahead and start preparing everything and getting ready. We're gonna make, like I said, we're gonna make the dandelion wine. We're gonna make a dandelion jelly, and some other stuff with it. So, all right, guys, see you inside. All right, so welcome back to the Whitehouse Farm. As you saw, we were picking dandelions. We didn't get to start making the dandelion wine that day, so we went ahead and froze everything. But first we put them in a strainer, and then we ran water through them and got out any bugs and any dirt and stuff like that we could. Okay, as you saw, we were out picking the dandelions, and we didn't get a chance to go ahead and start making any of the jelly or the wine. The jelly will actually be in a separate video, but we're going to be making this nice, delicious dandelion wine, as you see here. And we have some of our vintage ones through the ages from 2010, 11, 12, 13, and 14. But I'll explain to you why we did different went through the years and actually saved some bottles. But first we'll go ahead and start talking about the dandelions themselves. If you do have dandelions, make sure, if you can, let them grow, because it's the bees' first chance at getting nectar, and that's very important. If you do honeybees and all that stuff, that's one of their first things they go to, because that's the first thing that pops up in spring is the dandelions. So if you can, let them grow, and don't spray them with pesticides, because that'll also kill the bees, and you don't want that. Honeybees are our friends. So right here I got about 8 quarts of dandelions, and I got a cheesecloth. Some people, they like to remove the sepals because they say it gives it like a bitter taste. But I got a secret ingredient for that. I actually used to work with an older lady. She's probably about 75 now, but her grandmother was from Italy, and she said that she'd be out picking the dandelions and making the dandelion wine, and she actually gave me a recipe. And I usually used to make big 5-gallon carboy dandelion batches, which makes like 30 750 milliliter bottles. But we're just doing a small batch here. We're doing a 2-gallon batch, so that way if you want to make a quick batch and not have to be picking dandelions all day and having yellow fingers, you could do that. But the secret ingredient to get rid of the bitterness, which I really, our first 2 years we would remove the sepal and just do the yellow flower part itself. But we realized after she gave me the recipe, one of the secret ingredients is actually adding golden raisins. Not only does it boost the alcohol concentration because the yeast break down the sugars in there, and that boosts up the alcohol, but it also gives it a better flavor and not a bitter flavor. So, and that's how we done it, and we've been doing it that way since 2008. So 12 years we've been doing that, and it's always come out good and tastes really good, and we can make them super strong. That's another thing. If you want to test them, you can do the specific gravity and use a hydrometer and stuff like that, and actually calculate what it's going to come out to be. We don't even bother anymore, because we know if we see it bubbling, we know that the yeast is eating the sugar and it's turning to alcohol. So without further ado, we got cheesecloth here. We're going to go ahead and wrap the dandelions in the cheesecloth. I got this container at the good old Wall of Mart, and what we're gonna do, you can get yourself one of these bubblers here. You can get them any brewery shop, and you can also order them online, Amazon, eBay. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna drill a hole in the top of this. This container actually works out pretty great, especially for making a small batch, because you could put everything in through the top here, and then you can strain it or drain it and leave all the sediment in the bottom, so it come out here. So when you're getting ready to switch it over, you can do that and put all your strained fluid in a in a pot or whatever, and then you can clean this out, get all the sediment out of there, and then you can put the clean fluid back in here, and that helps clarify and clear it up, so you actually get nice clear bottles like this. So let's go ahead. We're gonna drill a hole in the top here. Okay, so now that we got the hole in there, this should be able to fit in, make it a little bit snug, and there you go. You got your bubbler. Now when the yeast starts eating all the sugars, the gases that are expanding and letting loose because of that will be coming up in here and being released out into the air instead of being in a sealed system where it could explode. So, and this is also how you can tell if it's fermenting, because if it's fermenting, then you'll see bubbles, and that's how you know that you're getting alcohol. So, with the dandelions, got a little ahead of myself here. We want to take the ½ pound of chopped golden raisins, the secret recipe here to having not bitter dandelion wine, and I'm going to put them in there. This is just going to make it a lot easier for cleanup when we clean this thing out. So now that we got everything in there, try and mash it in through the hole here. Okay. So that's in there now. Next thing we want to do is zest an orange and zest a lemon. Okay, so now that we got the lemon zest and the orange zest, we'll go ahead and put that in here. And then we're going to want to cut these and then drain the juice into there. Okay, and then you can go ahead and discard the pithy part, which is the white part. I'll actually throw these down to our pigs and goats. I'm sure Olaf would love these. Even baby Chungus might like the lemon or the orange. So I don't know what my wife was trying to do to me. I asked her for the sugar, and for some reason she put flour down here. So I don't know if she thought I said I was making dandelion cookies or what. We're going to make dandelion jelly, which uses a sugar, and we have our Certo pack and the ball jars. Like I said, that'll be in another video. I'll show you how to make dandelion jelly, and we actually make ours. It comes out tasting almost like honey. It's got like a honey flavor almost. It's really good. So, but yeah, the flour, I don't know. Maybe she's just trying to throw me a curveball, see if I noticed. That would have been bad. Dandelion flour wine. So, alright. So here's the sugar. We're going to need 12 cups of sugar because we're doing a 2-gallon recipe here. Roughly about 2 1/4 cups of sugar equals 1 pound. So, and if you want to make a smaller batch, if you don't feel like picking even, all the dandelions make a 2-gallon, just cut this recipe in half and you can make a little 1-gallon setup. But this is a 2.5 gallon jug, and I figured I'd try making a 2-gallon jug out of it of wine. So it seems like a pretty neat setup. Quick, easy, simple, from Walmart, cheap. So yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do 6 cups of water with 12 cups of sugar. Okay, so now that's coming up to a boil. We're gonna go ahead and add our 12 cups of sugar. Okay, now that we got the sugar in there, we're gonna bring this back up to a boil again and melt it all down. And then we'll be able to add it into our container over there. Okay, and my own spin on the things, on this whole recipe is we're gonna add our own very own Whitehouse Farm honeybee honey, roughly about a cup. And remember, this is gonna sweeten it up, but it's also gonna turn more into alcohol, because the more sugar, the more alcohol. So it's gonna convert once the yeast starts fermenting all the sugars in here. So that's a little secret stuff I put in there. So that's our honey. It really does give it a good flavor too. And you don't have to worry about any bitterness and, you know, from the sepals and stuff like that. Alright, so now that that's all set, we're going to go ahead and pour it into the container here. What we're also going to do, we got roughly 100-degree temperature water, and we have our yeast. And I use champagne yeast. I find that gives, like, any of the wines that I make from my own grapes and dandelions and stuff like that, or the apple wine, I find that champagne yeast actually gives them the best flavor. So that's what we're going to put in here. You're just going to add that in there. Give it a little stir. And you're going to let that sit until that cools down, because we're going to pour that in there. Once that cools down, then we'll go ahead and add the yeast. Okay, let's go ahead and add this. If you smell, that smells really good. Give it a couple stirs. And now we're gonna go ahead and top it off with some cold water. Okay, since we're making a 2-gallon batch, that's roughly a little less than 8 liters. And there's markings on these bottles, which makes it really nice. So all that's in there now. Let's go ahead and give it a stir. Okay, now that it's cooled down, we're gonna go ahead and add our yeast in. And we're just going to give that a little stir. So now that's all in there, we'll go ahead and put our bubbler top on. Alright, so we want to fill this roughly up to where it says the fill line on there. There we go. So now we got the water in there. Put that in. Alright, so that's all set up now. So you want to try and store it in roughly, anywhere around a 68-degree temperature room or basement if you have it at around that temperature. And you'll start to notice that you'll see bubbles coming up here. And that's how you know that the yeast is turning the sugars into alcohol. And roughly after a week, maybe 2 weeks, you shouldn't have any more bubbling. You're gonna let it sit for about another month, and then you're gonna go ahead and decant it. And with this will be interesting. This is pretty cool. I'll be able to pour the liquid out here and hopefully leave all the sediment on the bottom. And we have the dandelions and the raisins in the cheesecloth, so we don't have to worry about them settling or floating over and clogging this thing up. So this will be interesting. This is my first time actually making it with this type of device. I figured this would be perfect and putting the bubbler on and everything. So yeah, after a month, after it's all decanted, you can go ahead and decant it or let it sit for another month or up to 6 months and decant it again. All that does is gets it clearer and clearer. I only do the one decanting, and that's why, I mean, they still look clear and they come out good. And I'm not a wine snob. I mean, it's dandelion wine, it's alcohol, tastes good, and you know. So, and the whole reason behind the bottles here, I saved. We started making dandelion wine in 2008, and the first 2 years we pulled the sepals off, made sure there was no greens because we were so worried about it being bitter, not tasting good. And then finally, in 2010, that's when the friend I worked with told me about her grandmother's recipe and how she did it, and it didn't come out bitter. So since then, we did it an easier way. We just made sure that the stems were off, and that's how we've been making the dandelion wine, and it tastes great. And we made wine through the past 12 years, but from 2010 all the way up to 2011, 12, 13, all the way to 2014, we saved five bottles from each batch, because we'd make the 5-gallon batches then, and it produces 30 bottles, so we figured we could save at least 5 from each one. And what we did after the 5 years, we got together with a group of friends and we opened up a bottle from each one of the years, and they supposedly say that each year will give you a different type of flavor. And so we were like, hey, let's try it. So after 5 years, we saved up all the bottles and we opened them up and started having them. And I could tell you, it honestly, after 2 bottles, it all tastes the same. I really didn't notice a flavor difference or anything. Some, you know, when you first drink it, it kind of, I don't know, tastes like the rest. But then again, you know, there might be some wine people out there that know a difference. But wanted to share that with you. And I mean, these are pretty old now. Normally you want to drink them within 6 months to a year. You don't want to let them go too long, but these hanging around in our wine rack just to remind us of that time that we did that, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so for a quick wrap up of the ingredients you'll need and how to make it, basically six cups of water, 12 cups of sugar, 6 to 8 quarts of dandelions, half pound of the golden raisins, 1 lemon zest and the juice, 1 orange zest and the juice. Yeah, and then you're gonna top this off up to the 8-liter mark on there. That'll give you 2 gallons. And then you want to do the yeast in like 100-degree water. And then once this cools down, you're gonna add the yeast, and then you're gonna let it sit in roughly about 68-degree room if you can. And then you're going to watch for the bubbling, and once the bubbling's done with, usually after a week or 2, you're going to let it sit for another month, and then you can decant it and get rid of the sediment in the bottom, and you should have a pretty clear wine bottle wine by then. And then you can go ahead and bottle then, or you can go ahead, wait another month and decant. And the more you do that, it clarifies it, makes it, you know, a lot clearer. But I never really did that after the first one. I always just bottled it, and it always came out good. So that's how you do it. And this is the new little setup that we're trying out. Just because I don't feel like getting out the 5-gallon carboys, and you know, You also got to pick a lot more dandelions. Oh, and the kids were getting tired. So we're making the little 2-gallon batch. I just wanted to share that with you. And if you want to make a smaller batch, just take half those ingredients. You know, it's a 2 gallons, so just cut it in half for everything. So once again, hope you guys like, enjoy, subscribe, enjoy your dandelion wine, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye. Alright, so just wanted to show you really quick. You can see it's starting to turn into carbon dioxide. You can see the bubbles. It's fermenting. Alright. You can't say goodbye without saying goodbye to me. Alright, Olaf. We'll see you on the next one. Alright. Bye, Obo. Bye, guys.